Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight. Very little from the Prime Minister today on that VAT exemption on electricity bills.
PLP supporters gather to remember Bradley Roberts.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight. For the second time this week, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis dodged questions from reporters concerning issues at Bahamas Power and Light. This as angry Bahamians question whether government's increased VAT exemption ceiling on BPL bills would really bring relief. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Today, while leaving the House of Assembly, we sought to get some answers from the Prime Minister, but he refused, sending reporters on a chase from the door of the House of Assembly to the Cabinet Office. Ms. BM. Ms. BM. You got a minute? Really quickly?
With police officers at his side, the Prime Minister began his trot from the House of Assembly across Bay Street. But as public concern rises over the drastic increase in electricity bills continues, reporters sought to get more answers from the Prime Minister.
Any concerns that this electricity issue could cause you the next election? Any concerns with the allegations of bribery in the Department of Immigration?
People are saying that $300 VAT exemption is ineffective, Prime Minister. Any response?
Despite crossing the street with him, still no response or acknowledgement up until the very end.
So no response at all, Mr. BM. Just 1 minute, Dr. Minnis.
A day after the Prime Minister's announcement that BPL customers whose electricity bill is $300 or less will qualify for VAT exemption on that bill for 6 months beginning in December, social media and radio talk shows continue to be bombarded with angry consumers questioning how many people this move would help, given that light bills have seen a drastic increase. Like this Twitter user who said, "This VAT exemption if your bill is under X amount is really a mental scam. The maximum amount you can save is $36. You're sitting in a hot, dark corner of your room, watching Netflix on an iPad fueled by 4 power banks you charge on your lunch break to save $36. Then there's the statement made by BPL Chairman Dr. Donovan Moxey blasting the opposition leader for making comments he called completely irresponsible. He was referring to a statement sent out by the opposition on Wednesday about talks of a 70% increase. Well, Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Fred Mitchell hit back, saying that wasn't Moxey's job to get caught up in politics.
Because it seems to me inappropriate for someone who is largely a technical appointee of a public utility getting into inflammatory invective with the leader of the opposition. That's something which is properly reserved for the minister who's responsible for electricity to respond to, not the chairman of the corporation.
He said while the Bahamian people are suffering now, it's the Minnis administration that will take the blows in the end.
Well, I think what the FNM is going to face is death by 1,000 cuts. They can't get a good headline to save their lives. It's just one crisis after the next, bungle, 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 and explanation, explanation, and explanation. And we've been there because you can sit in a cabinet and say, oh, that one doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. But over time, it all adds up. Death by 1,000 cuts. And I tell them, look out, because there are problems coming down the pike.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. As consumers fret over high light bills, one former chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce says energy bills are replacing payroll expenses as the highest cost facing businesses. This as consumers complain that the fuel surcharge on their light bills is higher than the bill itself.
In recent times, you've heard the criticism that the energy bill has become a second mortgage in some cases, where the actual cost of energy is now becoming very close to the cost of the other elements of the business.
Former chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce, Gowan Bowe, says consumers can expect to pay higher costs for goods and services as businesses pass on high energy costs to their customers. Bowe says while employee wages were traditionally the highest business expense, that has changed.
And that has a knock-on effect because it is something that a business has to recover. And so that ultimately means that the consumer not only gets hit by their home electricity bill in terms of how they live, but secondly, when they are buying goods and services, that's going to have an impact on the cost of living for those same individuals, because businesses are going to have to recover it in some form or fashion.
Bahamas Power and Light executives recently revealed that higher light bills are due in part to a heavier reliance on the Blue Hills power station after fires damaged 2 engines at the company's Clifton Pier plant. Blue Hills utilizes more expensive diesel fuel, while Clifton uses a cheaper heavy fuel oil. In addition, a steadily increasing fuel surcharge, tax to take into account the fluctuating cost of fuel, is often higher than the customer's actual bill. Taking a look at the July-August light bill for a customer whose identity we won't reveal, you can see that the fuel surcharge totals $491.69. On the other hand, the kilowatt-hour usage only comes to $394.84. That's a difference of $96.85. The fuel surcharge has also steadily increased since February, when it stood at 14.75 cents per kilowatt hour. During the July-August billing period, the fuel surcharge stood at 17.47 cents per kilowatt hour. Taking a look at the same consumer's bill, but this time for August and September, we can see a reduction in energy consumption by 160 kilowatt hours. However, due to a spike in the fuel surcharge from 17.47 cents to 19.15 cents heading into September, the August and September light bill wound up being a mere $8 lower than the previous month. Had the fuel surcharge remained the same, the cost would have come to approximately $463.70. Instead, this consumer wound up paying $508.56. Meanwhile, Bo says the reality is that businesses have been preparing themselves to cope with BPL shortcomings, and ultimately, it means more cost for consumers.
I think when we look at businesses now, most of them are saying that their budgeting has to take into significant consideration not only the cost of electricity, but sometimes the instability of electricity in terms of when it operates, and certainly when there is load shedding. Most times the businesses are the first ones to be impacted because of the reliance by BPL on businesses having their backup generator systems.
Bo says ultimately businesses using their backup generators could end up increasing costs. He says it is similar to the situation at BPL's Blue Hills and Clifton Pier plants.
When you think about your backup supply, most of them are going to be diesel. We hear BPL itself saying that the use of the sort of more costly diesel fuel that's being used at the Blue Hill plant versus the heavy diesel, or whatever they call it in the technical terms, at the Clifton Pier is certainly more costly even for BPL. So naturally, for a business, when they're using a device that's really intended to be used sporadically, if you will, to supplement, it certainly is on a per unit basis going to be far more costly in terms of using that backup supply.
As PLP leaders travel the country seeking to regain the trust of disillusioned voters, former party leader Perry Christie advised his successor, Philip Davis, that it will take more than Davis, Deputy Leader Chester Cooper, and Chairman Fred Mitchell to get the job done.
Brother Davis, yours is a very difficult task, because Bradley believed in a Bahamas, not New Providence, not Grand Bahama, but Bahamas. And wherever Bahamians live and vote, that's where you're supposed to be. And you can't do it by yourself, Brave. You can't do it just with Chester. You can't do it with you, Chester, and Fred. You need them.
Christie stepped down as PLP leader last year following the party's greatest election defeat, which saw the veteran politician lose the seat he held for 4 decades. The party only managed to hold on to 4 seats in Parliament in the May 2017 general election. Speaking during a memorial service for Chairman Emeritus Bradley Roberts, Christie urged party members to support their new leaders.
You have an obligation to lift up yourselves and to support the leadership of this party. If you start debating about what is perfect and what is not, and who's this and who's that, you're making a mistake.
PLP party headquarters was transformed last night as members and supporters gathered to pay tribute to Chairman Emeritus Bradley Roberts, who died suddenly at his Western New Providence home last month. During a memorial filled with hymns and tributes, Roberts was celebrated for his accomplishments in business and politics. Gillian Gray reports.
With standing room only on the inside, PLP supporters braved the draft on the outside just to sit and soak in the memory of Bradley Roberts.
Ain't no need to worry what the night's gonna bring.
It was an emotional night at PLP headquarters as senior members of the party and longtime supporters gathered to pay tribute to the chairman emeritus. For some, the grief was unbearable as they viewed Roberts' body.
After I'm going, Miss Bradley. When I saw him on the floor of his bathroom, I helped to lift him on the. I said, you know, but for the grace of God, they're alive. I never expected to look at my brother in these circumstances, recognizing that the wind has passed over that flower in the field. And he's gone.
Roberts' wife, Hartlyn, and children were comforted by former parliamentarians such as Cynthia Mother Pratt, Alfred Sears, and former Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson, who all offered their condolences to the bereaved family. Former colleague Shane Gibson encouraged the family to cherish the precious memories of moments they shared with Roberts.
People say time bring on healing. I don't ever want to heal from the relationship and the feeling I have when I think about my parents, ever. And so I say to all of you, you have some sweet, precious memories that you had with Bradley over the years. Precious, precious memories. Memories that most other persons wouldn't begin to understand what it is that you share with him. I said you treasure those memories. Continue to allow his memory to live to the things that you have done with him over the years.
Former Prime Minister Perry Christie used the platform to encourage his successor, Philip Davis, to build a team comprising of strong and loyal supporters. Christie said that's what he found in Roberts, who stood by him during the highest and lowest points of his decades-long political career.
We kept on pushing forward and we had Big Bad Brad. You know, there's no compromise, there's no backing down. Bradley got one speed. That's full speed, and he ain't got no reverse. So when he stands up and he starts to speak, if you needed to hold on to somebody strong, you can know many times when I try to buckle, like grab him, look at him, he say something, I say, Lord, I can't say that. Bradley, you go say it.
The Roberts is known by many for his time in frontline politics as a Member of Parliament, Cabinet Minister, and PLP Chairman. He was also a successful businessman and founding shareholder of Sunshine Holdings Limited.
All these speeches tonight, the Secretary General or someone, go through it. See what they said about Big Bad Brad. And when we tell future candidates what we expect of them, it is to be like Bradley Roberts.
Many of the tributes throughout the night were filled with lighthearted jokes and fond memories.
This is my Friday date, Bradley. If Hartlyn wanted to know where he was on a Friday night, me and him used to be together, and I ain't called the name because I'll be marketing.
Most times when Bradley and I got up to make our contribution in Parliament, Prime Minister Hubert Ingram would suck his teeth, get up, and leave the chamber.
Roberts will be laid to rest following an official funeral Friday morning at St. Francis Xavier Cathedral.
And we're going to be all right, Bradley. And listen, as you up there with the boys in heaven, throw a blow for me, man. Tell them I don't want to come there for another 20, 30 years, but don't worry.
Reporting for R News, I'm Julian Gray.
Well, parliamentarians got their opportunity to view Roberts' body today. Roberts served in the House of Assembly as a Member of Parliament for Baines and Grantstown for 25 years. Governor-General Dame Marguerite Pinling, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, and other cabinet ministers were among those who paid their respects as Roberts' body lay in the foyer of the House of Assembly. His wife, Hartlyn, broke down as she clung to her son for support.
The Parliament of the Bahamas, Progressive Liberal Party, and the Bahamas have lost one of its really seasoned and committed patriotic sons.
House Speaker Halson Moultrie said he knew Roberts before he decided to enter politics and always saw him as a force to be reckoned with in the political arena. He said Roberts will be missed.
I can always remember the training received from Bradley Roberts and Kendall Nordich in particular, and Dud Maynard. And those persons, Bradley in particular, understood the black belt grassroots population in the Bahamas, and he knew how to raise issues in a political way to gain political support.
Still to come on our news, why the PLP leader believes the Prime Minister was never serious about a BPL probe. Plus, a PM open to Securities Commission forum. Stay tuned.